Okay, so tonight we're going to be exploring the area of karma and life purpose through interlife work. And some of you might know the interlife work as life between lives, which was coined by the therapist Michael Newton, who wrote the book about past life therapy, interlife therapy. And the goal tonight is for me to share with you the content and the kind of the philosophy and the map of it through a PowerPoint. And then we're going to do a group regression into the interlife, and hopefully there'll be time to share. It could very possibly be that tonight's going to be a little bit longer than usual. So just be aware of that. I hope it's not going to scrunch anybody. And of course, you're always free to move off screen at any time if you have to leave early. So I'm going to start with my PowerPoint. You'll see that? You see the PowerPoint? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Get a little bit bigger on the screen.
Uh,
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the map of an interlife session. There's two ways that interlife work can be approached. The first is through past life therapy, where in doing a past life regression after the death experience, you move the client into the interlife so that she can juxtapose what she experienced in the past life with her present life to see how there's cause and effect and how they're related. And that is very commonly done when someone does a past life regression. Mostly what you'll be doing is looking at dialoguing between your past life and your current life. You'll be working at soul purpose and that lifetime and how it relates to your current life. You might look at relationship issues that have carried forward either by specific souls or through the dynamics. There's all kinds of things you can explore. But what we're going to do tonight with exploring the interlife is look at the prior to this lifetime incarnation, what you planned for your current life. So it's just focused on the here now, not the past lives. So that's where we're going to go tonight. So the question beneath the journey of doing an interlife process will help you understand why you're here, why these relationships that you're working on are here, who they are in relation to your evolution, and who you are in relation to their evolution, and what in your soul wants to grow. What are you here to complete, to learn, to understand? So interlife work focuses on inner experience to explore patterns, purpose, relationships, and choice, because we always have free will. A map of meaning is what we're going to look at, not a demand for belief. And the way I've got this framed tonight is you don't have to believe in reincarnation. You don't have to believe that there is an interlife, and you can still have an experience. So it's up to you and what your philosophies, your religious orientation, your beliefs are of how you're going to hold this experience. The question is it going to help you here now? So on some level, as esoteric as this may feel, it's very pragmatic. It's all related to helping you here now. So we're going to look at it from both the spiritual lens, looking at the continuity of consciousness, that we are not limited to this dimension, this time and space, that we have access to guides, soul groups, soul agreements, and that we can look at the lessons we're learning across lifetimes. From a more symbolic lens, those of you who may not be believers, you can look at it as imagery from your subconscious or unconscious, and meaning making with an inner wisdom supporting you, and look at it as a metaphor that supports your change. In either case, doing inner life work can be highly supportive of the here now. And the value of an experience can be explored without claiming literal proof. And for doing the interlife work, we typically use hypnosis as a modality because hypnosis focuses our attention while giving us freedom to have choice and agency. The client remains an active participant in the process. And this is very different than going to a psychic who will do a reading for you, where you are told what the situations were and what your purposes are and what your karmic knots may be from having the direct experience yourself. So tonight it will be a direct personal experience. And hypnosis helps because it focuses your attention. It reduces your 3D peripheral senses and awareness. It gives you greater responsiveness to suggestion. And pacing, consent, and the right to pause are central. This is important for people to understand because there's so many myths and misconceptions of hypnosis where people don't realize they have agency and freedom and free will and choice. You always have that with hypnosis. The journey will unfold in 7 different stages or movements, and each stage follows what's most relevant to the person or client. The first is a preparation, which always takes place in a hypnotherapy session, where there's a period of educating the client about how it works, what hypnosis is, what it isn't, what the safety valves are within the client so they have agency and inner uh, capacity to respond for their needs and to focus an intention for the work. And when you enter the phase, it's through an induction. And typically, the induction is there to minimize external reality, to go inward, to shift awareness, and to expand your consciousness, and to orient the consciousness with your higher self and guides. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the process, so that you are being guided inwardly, not just outwardly by the hypnotherapist. And any transpersonally oriented hypnotherapist will highly emphasize that inner guidance as a part of the process, as an empowerment. And then the relate part is to look at soul groups, contracts, life plans, karmic knots, all the details of what an inner life work can support. And then there'll be a review looking at the Akashic records of the personal lessons you're here and the soul agreements and also the purposes of your lifetime, which goes into your life plan and potentials, what you're bringing in with you in terms of the gifts, what you're bringing with you in terms of areas that you're going to be challenged by. And then after the session and towards the very end of the regression itself, there's a capacity to integrate and make meaning of it and to move into embodied action in your daily life. So it's not just an experience that stays in an inner way, it can be embodied through action. How you're going to actually move into your life with the information you've received. Preparation for doing the work creates the container, and in clear intention matters more than going deep. This is super important. When people come to do regressions, they will often say, I'm curious and I want to know if I had a past life. And I'll say, well, we can certainly wonder if you had a past life, but I can tell you from experience, you're probably not going to have a very successful session unless you choose something that really has some heart and meaning for you to explore. Because it's the energy of what that issue is that's going to bring to consciousness whatever the past life relationship to your current life is. So let's do this as a therapeutic and an evolutionary process rather than just a curiosity. And that's why you want to really spend time helping your client clarify what their intentions are. And then in that intention for inner life, you can ask them of the areas that you can explore, which are the most relevant or appropriate for where they are in their development right now. So some of them might want to look at purpose. Some might more focused on relationship issues. Some might want to deal more with decisions they've made and the consequences of those decisions, or working with something like grief, or some kind of a recurring pattern that's problematic or maybe beneficial in their lives currently. And after establishing consent, you want to help with energetic boundaries so that the client will be focused and protected while they expand consciousness, and how they can stop the process if they're feeling overwhelmed or just need a break, and how to ground afterwards. And typically at the grounding at the end, I would add something energy work like either EFT or some Reiki to help people kind of reground in the body and get more back in the three-dimensional space. You want to invoke curiosity while releasing pressure to perform. And many people have difficulty with this because there's a high level of expectation for newbies to think they have to see it to have an experience. And the reality is most people feel more than they see in these processes. So it's a good thing to orient your client or yourself to this tonight to realize you can have the experience without seeing anything. You can have a knowing or a sensing or a remembering. And those are just as valid for doing the work. And then there's always important for the guide to ask open-ended questions and directions so that they are not leading the client's experience. And a well-trained hypnotherapist has the capacity to take responsibility to do that. And if you don't have a good hypnotherapist, it can be problematic because that's where false memories come into the picture by leading the client, maybe not even consciously leading the client with ill-crafted languaging. So the hypnotherapist has a big responsibility in that area when doing regression therapy. So safety first, meaning second, and interpretation will be the last part of the session. So entering the interlife begins with an induction, a shift in perspective that helps the client transition from this 3D dimension into an expanded state of consciousness beyond time and space. And this will happen through relaxing the body and the induction, expanding the awareness through deepening, and then moving into the actual experience of the exploration of the interlife. And a good question that's open-ended might be, what do you notice now? What are you aware of now? What's happening now? So that the client is being nudged through it without being directed to have a specific experience come through. The open-ended language protects the client's imagery, and they can make their own meaning. Now, in this work, a transpersonal hypnotherapist doing a transpersonal type of process is very wise to make sure that the client has access to their higher self and guides that represent a wiser vantage point. And a higher self will always, always be there for the highest good. It will not prompt specifically. It will keep things open. It will be assuring. It will be loving. It will be non-judgmental. It would never force any kind of experience. It's very much holding a safe, open presence in space so the client can have an authentic experience that's inwardly generated. And that presence may be sensed of the higher self, may be sensed as a voice, as an image, as a feeling, or an inner knowing. So it would be very helpful for an individual session to first resource the client with the higher self. And in that exploration, you would discover how the higher self presence is experienced, how it communicates to you, and what support or perspective it offers. And you would be discerning about whether or not this helper, this inner helper, is feeling compassionate, is being loving, gives choice rather than dictates specifics, and it can translate into grounded action. So the hypnotherapist will be listening for the response to how the higher self is emerging to make sure that it is the authentic higher self and not a part of the ego and not a guide who is self-assigned rather than cosmically assigned, who really doesn't have the authority to be working as a wiser vantage point. In the interlife, you'll explore soul groups, which are relationships that are always a part of the learning. And soul groups may include family, partners, ancestors, friends, and challenging relationships. When you are doing the interlife work, you will notice what feels familiar about either the people specifically or the feeling of the dynamics between you and the people that are part of your soul group. And you'll discover with these beings who are in your soul group what gifts you are exchanging, what you are giving, and what you are receiving, and what challenge between these relationships invites your growth of consciousness and expansion. The soul contracts you have with these soul friends, we want to invite inquiry, not obligation, because an agreement can be explored for meaning, and it's never an excuse for harm. So if you have difficult relationships, the purpose is not for harm. The purpose is to wake up some part of you for healing and growth. So possible questions you might ask, and you look at the soul contracts, is what role might we have agreed to play? Why am I, what am I learning to receive or give? And is the agreement between us complete? Is it changing? Is it emerging? Or is it ready to be released? Because sometimes through this work, you will come to closure with soul agreements, having become very conscious of the fact that you have given what you're meant to give and you have received what you're meant to receive from the soul agreement. There's also a grounding principle that compassion does not require continued exposure to abuse. So if there are abusive relationships or dynamics that you come upon that you've been suffering from, or maybe even you've been promoting yourself, you'll have an opportunity to look at that and maybe come to some closure or some atonement around it, and that you have free will and healthy boundaries that will remain essential. So now we're going to talk a little bit about karma. Karmic lessons are patterns that are seeking new response. Karma can be framed as a learning and consequence rather than a punishment, which is a common misunderstanding of karma. Karma does not mean punishment. Karma is looking at what keeps returning in our lives, what patterns, what obstacles, what gifts keep showing up over and over again. And underneath that pattern, to recognize what the belief, wound, or strength is. And as you recognize that, you have a different capacity to respond through choice. Some different pattern needs to emerge around this pattern, something new. And when that new response is there, the karmic energy dissipates. It's no longer going to be attracting the same dynamics and the same patterns. And you'll be able to integrate the quality that wants to become embodied through collapsing that karmic pattern. And with karma, the aim is always freedom. It's not a more elaborate story about blame. We're not trying to get in victim mentality at all about karma. We're trying to move out of that and realize that we have free will and choice of how we respond and how we interface and interact with people in our lives. The life preview is held in a field of compassion. The council, elders, or wise presences may help place experience in context. So you'll get to learn what will be learned, what is unfinished that can be addressed around that learning, and what can be understood now and then brought into action. There'll be less judgment, more perspective, and a wider view of growth. We are moving from ego consciousness to soul awareness in this process. And that's where the higher self-wisdom and compassion and understanding can come in. Your experiences and questions, not the facilitator's beliefs, guide the dialogue. Very important that the facilitator does not interpret, does not judge, does not in any way influence the client's experience from within themselves and their own wisdom. And then we can explore the Akashic Records, which is the cosmic library of all events that have taken place in the past, that are currently taking place, and in the future. So it's a record beyond time and space. And you can think of it as a symbolic archive of the soul's journey. And in the Akashic record part of the Interlife, you might experience it as a book, as a film, as a hologram, as a scene, as a sensation, or direct knowing. I recently had a client who experienced it as a river they could look in and they could see things flowing from the past into the future in this river. So it's a metaphor for the cosmic record of your soul's journey, past patterns, present purpose, and future possibilities. The life purpose is explored as a direction, not a single predetermined job. These are the lessons the soul wants to develop in the current life, the relationships and the agreements with these current relationships, the innate gifts that you've brought in, the limitations you have, and the resources, both inner and outer resources, that are available to you as you incarnate, and the historical, cultural, and family context, which are very important. The other day, I did a regression with a woman who went back to being burned at the stake as a witch for being a healer, for bringing herbs into the healing modality. And she was accused by one of her friends because the friend was worried she was going to get accused. So she got dissed by her friend, ended up dying. And we talked about that feeling of betrayal and that feeling of not being safe to communicate your truth, and how culturally in the witch burning days, it's very different than it is now. People can look at you and think you might be a little wiggy if you believe in past lives, but they're not going to burn you at the stake. Not literally, anyway. So the cultural and historical time period is really important of why when you incarnate. The life planning may explore the whole ecology of a lifetime, any of these areas. The inquiry includes both inner and outer conditions, inner qualities and outer conditions. So the inner design, you can look at your temperament, you can look at your body type, your energy level, any physical limitations you might have, your emotional range and capacity, and your spiritual awareness. In the relational field, you can look at why you chose your parents and your family members, what your soul group connections are about, key agreements you've made this lifetime, and the shared learning experiences you're here to experience. And in the life context, culture and era, the resources and limitations, the abilities and challenges, and the important crossroads in your life. We've all got those. The times when you make the big decisions, one way or the other. And future potentials can be explored in the interlife, which support choice. They do not replace it. Some of this work almost gets into working with timelines into the future or future life progression by imagining when you have a fork in the road, the different options you have. Like, do I go live here or do I live here? Do I stay married or do I divorce? These big questions can be approached in the inner life by doing a future progression based on each of those options to compare and contrast the effects so that you have a more informed, intuitive knowing of which option would be more appropriate for you to take. And you'll notice the bodily and emotional responses to this, what each path develops and offers. And when you return to present day, the evidence and practical wisdom of this experience can inform your choices. And an interlife reflection hypnosis will bring one issue or recurring question in your life as part of the interview. You'll be supported into viewing it from wiser, more compassionate perspective. You'll explore what quality in this experience is inviting you to develop, and you will discover a small grounded action that will honor that quality. And that's one of the things I want you to get out, hopefully, of this regression tonight. And integration after the session turns insight into a lived purpose. This is the practical side of it now. The most important question, excuse me, is what becomes different in you and in your life now from doing this interlife work. You will record images, feelings, and insights before you interpret them. So you'll have the experience and then you'll have time to integrate and interpret them. You can hold literal and symbolic possibilities lightly. You can test the guidance by compassion, agency, reality, and consequences. And you can translate insights into specific present day action. So the purpose becomes visible through the way that we live our lives. And here are some resources for you if you want to do some work on your own. Llewellyn's Little Book of Life Between Lives. This is the first book. Life Between Lives is the first book that Michael Newton wrote. I happen to have the small little handy version of it. That's what that is. The Life Between Lives by Joel Winton and Joe Fisher, which is the first book I read 30 years ago on inner life work, way before Michael Newton was on the scene. And I personally prefer the Life Between Lives book over the Newton because Michael Newton is well, he's super detail oriented, but he tends to be more heady about it than is my style. And The Journey of the Souls, also by Mike Newton, is all case studies. And then a book by Robert Schwartz called Your Soul's Plan. And a really interesting book called Hacking the Afterlife by Richard Martini, who's looking at life beyond physical reality, including the interlife phase. So we're going to do some hypnosis in a minute. But one more resource I want to share with you is that on my website, if you go to the resources page and the CD downloads, you have access to all of my CDs. And there are 4 CDs that are very relevant to this work tonight that you can be aware of and use for yourself. The first one is Exploring the Interlife, which is basically the process we're doing tonight. There are 2 tracks. The first one is the Interlife Between Lives, when you do past life work. And the second is the Interlife Prior to Incarnating, which is what we're doing tonight. And then the ones on past life relationship, a past life question, concern, or issue, and your future life progression, to look at the timelines and how they might juxtapose each other or take you in different directions through your free will and choices. So I want you to be aware those are free downloads. So before we go into the experience, we can come back to our group here. I want to ask if any of you have any questions or comments about this. Not that I have all the answers, but I'll be happy to try. And maybe some of you'll have some answers. Anybody? Does this make any sense to you guys? This map? Or how many of you have done interlife work? How many of you have done some of this? Great. Okay, good. I know some of my students have done it. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. So, did any of you need a bathroom break before we do this? This is going to be a fairly long process tonight.
Please, yes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll resume when you come back. Resume recording. Okay, now I've got Kaya on the screen. Oh well, here we go. We're going to do the hypnosis now, folks. So get a position so that your body can feel supported in an open posture. You can hear me well enough. You can turn up your volume. And as you are seated comfortably, when you're ready, simply close your eyes and take in a deep breath. And as you slowly exhale your deep breath, it's time for you to let go of your thoughts and all the activities of your daily life. And you focus on being right here, right now. Continue to focus on your breath, breathing in relaxation and letting go as you exhale. And while you're breathing slowly, contemplate on what you would like to get from this journey tonight. What areas are you most interested in exploring? And in terms of an action or an outcome, what would you love to see changing in your life that you can support tonight by doing this inner life work? And as you come to some clarity and intention on your focus, hold that gently through this process. And we'll be covering a lot of those different areas, so there's high probability that you'll come to a place in this work tonight where your needs can be addressed. And as you continue to settle into yourself and focus more and more within, your body begins to relax and your mind clears. Relaxation flows down through your body like water, clearing and washing away the stresses of your day, washing away any tension or discomfort. And you become more and more still and relaxed in your body, mind, and spirit. In support of your inner life work, you invite the infinite and wise aspect of your consciousness, your higher self, to be with you as your inner guide. And if you work with angels or guides of light, invite them to be with you as well. And I will support you in the area of being grounded and protected by invoking the star above you and the vortex around you through this simple process. You are the soul. You are the light divine. You are love. You are will. You are fixed design. And in the wisdom of your soul, you activate a star of energy 6 inches above your head that represents your highest self. And in the wisdom of your soul, you activate a vortex starting 30 feet above you that moves 30 feet beneath you into Mother Earth. This vortex will continually move. So as you release, as you let go, as you process your soul energy and move towards more and more evolution, all the debris that you release will be vortexed out of your energy field into the earth. And this vortex will protect you, focus you, and ground you into this work in a way that will be useful and pragmatic in your daily life. So through this intention and through the expanded and growing awareness of your higher self, you will access information that will give you understanding, insights, and empowerment in your present life purpose. Your higher self is loving, supportive, allowing, and accepting. It supports you and guides you in an inner way throughout this process. Setting these tensions, imagine that now you are standing in front of the closet in your bedroom. And as you push all of your clothes and belongings aside, you discover that in the back of your closet is a small doorway or portal. This is the opening to your inner experience of the liminal state of the between life world. This opening is illuminated with light, and it is your entry point through which you will transition into the interlife. With your higher self as your guide, you prepare to move into and through this portal. Your higher self guides you to the level of hypnosis that will be most appropriate and successful for you, through which you explore the interlife. And you take with you all the questions you have about your present life, such as, what are the purposes of your relationships? What are the lessons that you came to this lifetime to learn? What are the agreements you made with your soulmates and your soul sisters and brothers? And what are the agreements you made for your life purpose? What skills and opportunities did you bring with you? And what challenges are you here to face? And what will be the most significant, important life events that you will experience? Your higher self guides you to the level of consciousness that is most productive in exploring your questions about the interlife realm. Stepping closer to the portal, you are standing in a beam of light that comes through the opening. The light is warm and loving. This light penetrates through your physical body and touches every cell of your being. And as I count slowly from 1 to 5, you begin to feel lighter and a growing sense of expansion and spaciousness. Your spiritual, non-physical body steps out of your physical body through the portal and into the spiritual dimension of the interlife. Your spiritual body is energy. It can manifest into any form you desire through your thoughts. 1, 2, moving through the portal. 3, higher self guiding you. 4, 5, you're on the other side of the portal. You are in a dimension beyond time, beyond space. You are energy. You are consciousness. You perceive this realm of the interlife with your knowing, sensing, and spiritual seeing. In this state, you are all-knowing and aware. What do you perceive? What do you experience in this state of being? And how do you feel? When the pull of evolution moves you forward to the next phase of growth and learning, and when it is for your highest good to incarnate, you meet with a group of highly evolved souls or elders. These wise ones have greater knowing and insight than spirit guides. They are loving and non-judgmental. You are with these wise ones now. How do you experience them? These elders take you through a view of your past lives to help you get clarity on choosing a focus for your next incarnation. They support you in a reflective review of planning and choosing your options. A pattern of focus for your next incarnation, which will be your current life, emerges out of these life views. How do these elders and wise ones assist you in choosing what you will have as a focus, as a goal of your next incarnation? Who will you be in your next incarnation? Now review the contracts you make that will govern the template of your next lifetime. You will give and receive lessons in these learnings and shared contracts. What are your life contracts? As you review these aspects of your next incarnation, you understand how they will support your goals and lessons. You are now guided to explore the conditions of your family and your birth. Who do you choose to be your mother? What does she have to offer you? What do you have to offer your mother? Who do you choose to be your father? What does he in particular have to offer you? And what do you bring to offer him? Now view the contracts with your siblings or your lack of siblings. In what ways do you fulfill the needs of the next incarnation for each of your siblings? And in what ways do your siblings support and teach you? Explore the culture and time period in which you will reincarnate. Explore the environment that you will grow up in. Explore your body type and stature, your physical body's strengths and weaknesses. Explore the type of mental, emotional, and spiritual intelligence that you bring in. And what natural abilities will come with you. And what challenges will you face? You also explore your relationship with the material aspects of life, with money, with success as you define it. And you reflect on the important people in your life who are friends, partners, companions in work, or those souls who will be your children. What life events will be presented to you as opportunities to work through your life lessons? As you review these choices you make for your incarnation, tune into the opportunities you have for growth, for evolution, for healing. What are your life purposes? After knowing some of the specifics of your incarnation, before you are reborn into a new body, you are taken to a special area in the interlife to prepare for this incarnation. In this place, you are shown the various potentials your next life offers you. You are programmed with the necessary data that will allow you to recognize significant others and those in your soul groups. You will encounter those with whom you share mutual learning in your next journey. And your guides are present now. And in their presence, what guidance do they offer you before you incarnate? Having moved through the planning stage of incarnating, how are you feeling about the adventure ahead? With what energy do you move into your conception? Go to the moment of your conception. What is the energy you experience surrounding your conception? And how does this energetic force give life to your physical creation and to the soul journey ahead? What is the color of your soul vibration as you incarnate? And when is it that you join the fetus? What do you experience? Usually, the process of amnesia now begins to take place as the memories of the interlife fade. Although sometimes people remember the interlife into early childhood. At what point do you begin to forget? And in this review of your interlife, what comes to you about your incarnation that's important to know in addition to what you've already remembered? As one last vision, ask your guides and higher self what the major karmic lessons are that you come to complete. Clearly remembering all that has come to you in this interlife process, you begin to come back to a wakeful consciousness. You bring back insights into your present life purpose and current life lessons. You know more clearly what you need to know about the purposes and opportunities of your current life here and now. This interlife process and the information of which you are now aware brings you insights into your spiritual nature and an expanded understanding and acceptance of your present life circumstance with potential for transforming your world view. And as I count you back now from 5 to 1, bringing back the sensation of your body, 5, 4, becoming more alert, 3, breathing in energy as you become more enlivened and awake, moving back through the portal, through the closet door, into the room. 2, more present in the room where your body sits now. And 1, your eyes open when you're ready to fully engage back in the physicality of your current life in the here and the now, fully awake and alert. And as you adjust to being back in wakeful consciousness, it may be helpful for you to take some time to journal. I'll give you about 5 minutes of time to begin that process. And then we'll open it up for discussion and questions and sharing if anybody care to share.